watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of GHS-TV's award-winning talk show, Crosstalk. I'm your host, Ternyce Anderson. Each week in this time slot, we take a look at different issues, personalities, and events that affect you and our community. This week, we are honored to have the mayor of Shelby County on our show. Mayor Lee Harris is a lifelong Memphian. Before running for mayor in 2018, he was a law professor at the U of M Law School, a Tennessee state senator, and a Memphis city councilman. I'm excited to talk about his past 3 years in office and hear about his plans for the county's future. Please welcome Mayor Harris.
Mayor Harris, for having me.
Again, it is wonderful to have you.
Great, thanks for having me.
Shelby County is interesting in the form of government because of how the county is set up. How does the county government work?
No, I think that's a great question to start with. So Shelby County is the largest, one of the most diverse, and in my opinion, one of the greatest counties in America. We've got 950,000 residents in Shelby County, 7 great cities: Arlington, Bartlett, Collierville, Memphis, Millington, Lakeland, and Germantown. And of course, in this community, we have 2 local governments at least. So we've got the county government, which covers all of those municipalities and unincorporated Shelby County. And then we have our county seat, which is the city of Memphis, along with the other 6 municipalities that I mentioned. Shelby County government does a variety of things. We do healthcare. We've got the health department, and I'm happy to talk about COVID at the appropriate time. In addition to that, we do detention in terms of public safety. And so we've got 4 detention facilities around Memphis and Shelby County. And we also help fund our school system. And so that's our biggest expenditure in Shelby County government, is funding our schools. So we do a variety of things. There are thousands and thousands of Shelby County employees. Lots of them live in Germantown and in all the municipalities around. And so I've been mayor since 2018, and it's really the honor of my life to serve in this capacity. So thank you for that question, and thank you for the invitation and opportunity to talk about my hometown, the greatest community in America, Shelby County.
Well, as you just mentioned, you said the county is responsible for 3 principal things: education, public safety, and healthcare. I'd like to dive into each one, starting with education. How are you ensuring that the schools get the funding that they need?
So we're working really hard to make sure that our schools have everything they need. And like you say, funding is always a top priority. And so right now in Shelby County government, we allocate about $427 million, give or take a few dollars, in favor of the Shelby County school system and help fund their budget, which is over $1 billion. And so we also, in addition to that, help fund the other school systems around our county. In addition to that, we are the major funder for early childhood education. And so Shelby County government began to play a significant role in pre-K early childhood education when I came in 2018. And so over the course of the 3+ years I've been in office, we've devoted more than $30 million to pre-K and early childhood education. So we're constantly thinking about how we can provide more opportunities for our students, how we can help Shelby County schools, and generate more resources for our students and youth.
I feel that the school budget is being cut every year. Are there plans to increase the budget for Shelby County schools?
So right now, the schools are flush with resources, particularly because we're in a COVID environment. And so thanks to the leadership of President Biden and our congressmen and women, a lot of federal stimulus funds have flowed to Shelby County and toward our school system. And so our school system, the Shelby County school system probably has, well, I know it has more resources this year and right now than it's ever had before. And a lot of that is because the increased flow of funds because of federal stimulus legislation passed in Congress. So that includes things like ARPA and the Build Back Better, which is in the pipeline, and we're hopeful that that will be passed soon. But I'm constantly in communication with students across our county about what the needs are and what we can do better. In fact, in Shelby County government, we have formed a youth council. And so we have youth council members that represent each one of the 13 commission districts around our county. Our youth council is extremely active. So if you're interested, you can find them on Twitter and on social media. I meet with them pretty regularly around their ideas around what the county can do better. Right now, we're all working on how we can deal with youth who experience mental health issues and youth that find themselves on the wrong side of the law. And so we're working with that group and continue to listen and uplift youth voices because they're the closest to a lot of these issues. And so that's why this conversation is so important. I'm pleased to be with you, this afternoon, at least afternoon for me right now.
Moving on to public safety, what does the county do in that area?
So the county has, as I said, 4 detention facilities. We have 201 Poplar, which has been renamed the Walter Bailey Justice Center. We also have our juvenile detention facility, and we have a Jail East, which is kind of an overflow facility. And we also have the penal farm, which houses state inmates. And so that's one of our most important responsibilities. When you think of law enforcement, the county does have some patrolmen, but of course, most of the patrolmen and the law enforcement assets that you see around your community are City of Memphis assets and the other municipalities. So the county mostly does detention. But in addition to that, we realize on the county side that if we're going to have public safety, that we've got to be doing a lot more, that public safety can be thought of as a 3-legged stool, is that you've got to do something on the intervention prevention side, which is early in the process. In other words, provide more meaningful opportunity for youth and young adults in order to get them to not even think about a life of crime. You've got to do something on the law enforcement side and the detention side. That's the side most people think of most often when they think of public safety. And you've got to do something with respect to reentry. That's the 3rd leg of that stool. How do you make sure folks with a criminal history that return to our community have meaningful opportunity to succeed? So we're working on all of those fronts. I'm really pleased that on the reentry front, we have expanded our programming and are really laser focused on providing more opportunity for those who have a criminal history in Shelby County. We know we have tens of thousands of individuals that are in that situation. And so we'll continue to work on programs like transitional housing and jobs and vocational training for that community.
And finally, healthcare. Can you explain some of the services that the county provides?
So on the healthcare front, the county is in charge of the Shelby County Health Department. And the Shelby County Health Department's role is to be the coordinating force with respect to our public health needs. And so there are a lot of public health needs throughout our county, from the spread of infectious disease from not just COVID, but also TB, AIDS, and other infectious diseases. In addition to that, we have a lot of other kinds of public health challenges in this community. Right now in Memphis and Shelby County and across our state and across the country, we see a huge increase in the number of overdose deaths. And so that's also one of the roles that the county health department plays. In addition to that, we coordinate the forensics and the autopsies, postmortems that occur when there's an overdose death and where there are other incidents like that in Memphis and Shelby County. So the whole range of public health needs are coordinated by the Shelby County Health Department. Obviously, COVID has come down the pike recently, and so that's been one of their major focus areas. It's a relatively small agency for our county, but it has really flexed and expanded since the COVID pandemic. We started the pandemic with about just under 500 or so employees in our Shelby County Health Department, and now we have just under 700 employees in our health department because we've expanded greatly in order to meet the needs given the global pandemic that we are all trying to navigate.
Well, Mayor Harris, we have to take a short break.
Okay.
When we return, we'll discuss the county pandemic response. Don't go away.
GHS-TV started in 1982, and it was just a couple of cameras, a couple of on-air personality, and it's really grown into what you see today. It's a multi-million-dollar studio with top-of-the-line technology.
Being able to operate, all of the machinery in the control room, being able to use all of our software and hardware that we have around the studio is a great skill because this is top-of-the-line equipment.
I feel like this class has brightened my horizon. It's something that I never thought I would be doing, especially as a student.
GHS-TV is probably one of the most hands-on experiences a student will ever get in their lifetime.
Welcome back to Crosstalk. Nothing really has just the vibe that we have here.
Especially after you finished, you get a real rush of, wow, I just did that.
By the time a student graduates from Germantown High School, they will know pretty much every position there is, from producing to directing to on-air work.
You learn time management, you learn organization, you learn how to work with people, how to better communicate with people.
We put a lot on them, and they have to be able to have the responsibility and the knowledge to get everything that we ask them.
I had very little experience, so in the past 3 years, the skills that I've learned have absolutely exponentially grown.
The class has actually helped me figure out that I want to go to college for journalism.
When a student graduates, they are the best possible version of themselves that they can be.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.
For more information about the Kappa program, visit ghskappa.com or call 755-7775. You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome back. COVID-19 continues to affect everyday life in Shelby County. Throughout this pandemic, Mayor Lee Harris has been quick to take the initiative to protect our county. But the response hasn't been without controversy. Let's continue our conversation with Mayor Harris. We are nearly 2 years into this pandemic. Looking back, how would you grade the county's response?
Well, we're still in the pandemic. The pandemic isn't over. And so I don't know if right now, in the middle of the pandemic, it is the right time to grade a response. Here's what I've been really proud of. Our community is relatively decentralized. As I said, we have 7 great municipalities and 7 school systems on top of that. And so we've got a variety of different power centers in our community. And so it is usually pretty tough to coordinate all of those different agencies and governments. But from the start of the pandemic until now, it has really been a pleasure to work with all the school systems and to work with all the local governments in town around our pandemic response. We've had really active participation, and the coordination has been, pretty impressive. Maybe not without any flaws, but very impressive. I've got a meeting tomorrow morning with all the mayors of the various municipalities, and we meet regularly to talk about how we can work together in terms of COVID response. But now we've even expanded that with to other issues. I talk regularly to the superintendents of the various school systems around what they're seeing and how we can all work together to keep our community safe. So I'm just pleased to have so many folks in leadership capacity around this community who are devoted to this task, and pleased that we've been able to come together to produce the COVID response. And the statistics speak for themselves. We've regularly, as a community, had some of the lowest case rates per capita in our state or region. And so we're just really pleased by the coordination and by some of the results we've seen so far.
I can imagine when testing began and then the vaccines came out, there was a lot of coordination with the county, Memphis, and the suburbs. Can you talk about this?
Yeah, no doubt about it. So this pandemic has been anything but predictable. It has changed and required all of us to change with it as we move from one phase to another. And so you're right, we have the phase of the vaccine and the testing phase and the stay-at-home phase. These are really, really big coordination efforts that no one could have anticipated in 2018 when I ran for office. I think when I ran for office in 2018, I don't think I had talked at all about the public health on the campaign trail. But suffice it to say, we've moved through all those issues. We're still working on vaccine to try to get more residents in our community to take the vaccine. So if you are a student out there, please consider vaccination. My 13-year-old and my 16-year-old got their booster shots yesterday. And so I would encourage all of the eligible students in Shelby County, please consider vaccination, because that's the one thing in this unpredictable year that has remained stable. It is that the only way out of this pandemic was for more of Shelby County to get a vaccination. Right now, we're sitting at about 50% of our population has gotten a vaccine. We need to increase that dramatically. And one of the places where we are lowest in terms of vaccination rate is with our youth and young adults. When we talk about our seniors are doing a great job. The vast majority of them are vaccinated. Almost none of our youth and young adults are vaccinated. Let me say that again, almost none. And so we don't want our youth and young adults who are so important to our future in Shelby County, whose voices this show lifts up, to go without a vaccine. So please consider vaccination. Let's catch up with the seniors who are already there and are already fully vaccinated.
Well, Mayor Harris, we cannot have this discussion without mentioning the wasted vaccine controversy that happened nearly a year ago. The optics weren't looking good, but you maintained that the state got the timeline of the events wrong. Do you still stand by this today?
Yeah, I think that's right. That there was a snowstorm, and when there was a snowstorm, some of those vaccines expired and weren't able to be put in arms in a timely fashion because of the snowstorm. That's what our investigation yielded, and that was all there was to it from our perspective. I think that a lot of it got very political at the time, but we didn't find anything that was intentional misbehavior on the part of anyone at the Shelby County Health Department.
Well, it's been nearly a year since the vaccine has rolled out. And are we starting to see a turnaround when it comes to COVID-19 in Memphis?
I hope so, but I'm going to be a little bit cautious. Some of the medical professionals that we have talked to have suggested that we may be in a pretty good space because Omicron, while it is extremely infectious, seems to not produce the hospital admissions that the previous variants have produced. And so if that's true, some of them have suggested that Omicron might be the thing that gets us to herd immunity, because obviously you can get antibodies through vaccination, and that's what we prefer, but you can also get antibodies through contracting COVID. And so they suggested that that we don't want to see the spread of Omicron. That is for sure. But one of the consequences of the spread of Omicron is that it does produce a wider community with antibodies. And so we're constantly cautious about that, watching the hospital admission rates, and assuming we can keep the hospital admission rates stable, then this Omicron could be the beginning of the last phase of this. I'm prayerful that is, but either way, we've learned a lot of lessons, and one of the key lessons is we've got to keep kids in school, students and youth in school, because we know that they've borne way too much of this pandemic over the last 2 years, and so we've got to reflect on that and make sure going forward that that's where a lot of our focus and attention is.
Well, Mayor Harris, we are having a wonderful, wonderful interview, but we have to take a pause. When we come back, we will wrap up our conversation with Mayor Harris as he shares his hopes for the future of Shelby County.
And it's very fun to be in band, trust me. It's so much fun.
When I was an 8th grader and I saw them march, and I was like, wow, I need to be a part of this.
Our main performing group is the varsity band. That encompasses our marching band and our varsity concert band. We also have the jazz ensemble.
It's unique, so we're really lucky to have that.
I'm very methodical about teaching. I try to stay up to date because I want my students to have the best information that I can pass along to them.
He's excellent. He commands a sort of drive that we didn't exactly have.
I lead the class, but I also believe in the students self-assessing their work.
The leadership is led by the students. We lead most of the practices. It's basically just student-led.
And I think that's important for them to take that kind of ownership.
If you want to be a musician, you gain extremely important music skills, music techniques.
1, 2, 3.
There's so many opportunities for fellowship, and band is a family. And you develop that small community where you support each other, not only musically, but in many ways.
Really, without the band, the football games would be lame. Without the band, you wouldn't really have the pep rallies. The band is like a good foundation for the school spirit. If you want to join band, just do it.
I think band was the best part of my high school career.
For more information about the Kappa program, visit ghskappa.com or call 755-7775. You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome back to Crosstalk. I'm Ternyce Anderson. We've been honored that Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris has been able to spend the whole show with us. Before we let him go, let's look to the future of the county. In December, Mayor Harris announced he would run for re-election. In his announcement, he said his administration accomplished a lot over his first term, and he is ready to do more. Here once again is Mayor Harris. You led the county through 2 of its hardest years ever, and you say you want another 4 years. Why?
Well, I want to be the one that advocates for working families and middle-class families in Memphis and Shelby County. I think they need a voice in leadership. And if I'm lucky enough to be reelected, then I plan to be that voice. There are issues remaining. I'm pleased that we've worked on criminal justice reform, paid parental leave, advocated for a living wage, just a whole host of issues that we've already worked on. But there are additional issues that need someone to give attention. So one of those is healthcare. So if I'm fortunate enough to be reelected, I'll go to work to make sure that more Memphis and Shelby Countyans have access to good healthcare. That's been one of the challenges that's been revealed through the course of the pandemic, that we have far too many of our residents that don't have a relationship with a primary care physician. And so we're going to make sure that more of our residents have that relationship, because that kind of preventive work pays dividends and can stop conditions before they worsen. At the same time, I'm going to work to strengthen our Office of Reentry. That's where those with a criminal history can get some of the services that they need to reintegrate back into the community. And so one of the things I'm most interested in doing is making sure that they have jobs. And that means our Office of Reentry will expand its set of vocational training opportunities for those individuals so they can be more marketable and get a job. In addition to that, we have other things that we want to do in that office in terms of creating the first transitional housing program in Shelby County history. So there's a whole host of things that I plan to do if reelected. And by the way, I don't plan to just work on my reelection campaign the rest of this year. There's some things we're going to do in 2022 prior to the election. So we'll continue to work, and if people like what they see, and we'll continue to talk to voters, and with any luck, hopefully get a chance at 4 more years.
Well, looking back at your first 3 years in office, what are you most proud of, Mayor Harris?
Well, I don't do a lot of looking back. My dad used to always say to me, "What did you do for me today?" And so I focus a lot on what are we working on right now, and I really try to get all those around me to not dwell on the past, because again, who cares about a victory lap? Who cares about dancing in the end zone? I care about the next touchdown. I care about the very next play, and everything we can do to improve the lives of more Shelby County residents. So right now, we're working on transit. I'm proud to say that since I came in 2018, we have created the first dedicated funding for transit from Shelby County. And so we devoted a lot of money to transit, but we need to do more. And so I plan to bring a new plan to the Shelby County Commission that adds even more funding to our transit system shortly. In addition to that, I think that the biggest threat we have in our country and in our world is the threat of climate change. And so I'll be talking more and more about climate change. I'll bring a plan in the next several weeks to the County Commission around how we can switch out our cars, which are now, gas guzzlers and emission, they put out a lot of emissions, to a greener fleet. It's time for Shelby County government to have a green fleet. And I'm going to bring that plan to the Shelby County Commission here real soon. At the same time, I am a huge believer in terms of livable wages and doing something to cure the inequality in our community. We have too many folks on the bottom that don't have a chance to take care of their family. And many of those individuals are working hard every day, but they're not earning a livable wage. And so I'm going to lift up that issue and make sure that more of our residents get more of their fair share for the work that they do. We know that our health department employees, for example, have been the tip of the spear. Well, it's about time we recognize that. We also have correctional officers that work for Shelby County government that have also been, exposed every day. They go to work. They don't get a chance to work from home. That have been exposed to the virus over the course of these last 2 years, that need their earnings to reflect the work that they put in on behalf of all of us. And so I'll be bringing comprehensive plans around how we can pay our workers better, where we need to provide recruitment bonuses, in addition to the Green Fleet Plan, in addition to the Transit Plan, in addition to how we can double the amount of services we provide to those who need mental health care, because mental health care is part of health care. And so I'll be doing all of those things. And you guess what, Ms. Anderson, I'm going to try to do all of those things before the August election. So, pray for me, because I'll be busy, but that is my plan, and before the August election.
Well, Mayor Harris, a big campaign goal of yours was to reach 50,000 people out of poverty over the next 10 years. What have you been doing to help achieve this goal?
A wonderful question. So, y'all have done your homework here. So that's exactly right. So that was the campaign platform. It was centered on the inequality we have in this community. We have too many people on the bottom, too much poverty. There are 950,000 folks that live in Shelby County, and 200,000 of them live in poverty. That is a high poverty rate for our state and a high poverty rate for anywhere in the country. And so the plan is to bring that down, to see if we can lift 50,000 people out of poverty. We're working hard on that. We have a nonprofit committee with over 100 nonprofits that we help coordinate their work and how their work can help impact that poverty rate. And we were making pretty good inroads at the beginning of my first year and a half in terms of reducing the poverty rate and focusing on things like $15 an hour and so forth. And then the pandemic struck. And so we got to get back onto that issue. But the way you lift people out of poverty is you pay them more, right? That's the key. And so that is the issue that we need to bring forward, and we certainly plan to, particularly if I get 4 more years.
Well, Mayor Harris, thank you so much for doing this interview with me. It has been an honor. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for having me.
I hope you have enjoyed this crosstalk. For more information on Mayor Harris and what his administration is doing, visit shelbycountytn.gov. For more information on our programming, please check us out on the web at GHS-TV.org, where we are streaming live 24 hours a day. You can also check us out on Facebook and Twitter. I'm Ternyce Anderson. From all of us here at GHS-TV, thank you for watching Crosstalk, and I hope to see you again.